Hey folks, and welcome to What's New in IntelliJ IDEA 2025.2. We're trying out a new format today, which means we're not just trying to give you a boring lecture of anything that's changed from A to Z. Instead, we're going to show you quick demos of the key highlights, which came to 2025.2, and embed these key highlights into stories and contexts of why you would want to use these features in the first place. And I possibly couldn't do all of that by myself, which is why I brought two of my dear colleagues with me today. Hi, Marit. Hi, Anton.
Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
Hi.
Then let's jump right in, not to waste any more time. And the working title for the stream was essentially What's New in IntelliJ IDEA without AI updates. Because we also wanted to appeal to people who never fully jumped on the AI hype train or got off it at some point, but we understand that people actually want to see, what has been new in the AI space. So we're going to start with a couple of key AI highlights. Anton, please take it away.
Oh yeah, we are doing a lot of AI improvements, and there is a lot of improvements for the tools specifically in IntelliJ IDEA. Before we start, let me ask you guys, folks, friends,
Frenemies.
what is the hardest part when using AI tools?
For me at the moment, it's integrating with the dozen of, tools I would like the AI to integrate with. Exactly.
And related to that, trying to keep it from hallucinating dependencies that don't exist, methods and APIs that don't exist, or the reverse, which has also happened to me, having it argue with me that this version does not exist yet. And I'm like, I know for a fact that it does. So,
or like, why did you do something? Why didn't you ask me to do something?
Yep.
This kind of thing. So making it do what you want exactly is the hardest part. And for that, we need to supply some extra information, maybe some extra tools to improve the predictability of those tools in the IDE. So the highlight for this time is the appearance of MCP support in our coding agent, specifically Junie. And if I go to the settings, I have a few things already pre-configured.
Just to interrupt for people who don't know what MCP is, what is MCP?
Model Context Protocol.
Right.
That was announced by Anthropic company last year. It's basically like a schema of discovering the tools or providing the tools for the LLM in the agentic workflows.
Perfect.
So if I'm using some version of the library that is too recent, hasn't been out there when the LLM was trained, so it wasn't in the data set, I still can provide this extra information by telling it, here's the documentation, read it and implement it for me.
So that I won't have to argue with the AI that this version does in fact exist.
Exactly.
Perfect.
This exact problem. And for this, MCP just makes it much easier for everyone to plug in those different tools that can supply this information. Context 7 is very well known for this. That's a server that provides you the index documentation for the libraries and frameworks that you use. Or you may use tools for automating things. For instance, you are building the web application and you want the agent to be able to test how this layout is implemented on your web page. Are there any JavaScript errors in the browser console, and so on? So the configuration on my screen, it's on the tools, Junie, MCP settings, and then there is a list. In fact, it's just one file. It's a JSON file, and I just check them, enable which one I want to use in my project, and let me see if I go to Junie window and ask it to add MCP client to this project, or how to add. Let's ask the question in the ask mode, so it will not go and start editing my project just yet. I want to figure out will it be able to do the thing. And the way it works the query goes to the LLM somewhere. Whatever model we use, might be GPT, might be Claude. Junie is using Claude. And there is a list of tools that are added to this request. And then the LLM will respond that to complete this task, it needs a result of calling that tool. So please call it for me. And the agent in the IDE will do that. So currently, we can see that the agent has scanned my project, collected the context, and figured it out. It's a Kotlin project. We need to make an MCP client. So let's resolve a library on the somewhere in the registry, which library fits us for our use case. And then it will discover that there's a Spring AI being used in my project. I'm using Gradle. It will ask for the code snippet, how to implement that from the documentation, and then provide me the response. This is what you need to do. You need to add the dependency. You need to implement this controller or the component in your application, and then we are good. If I did that in the code mode, not in the ask mode, the agent would be able to actually implement that for me, execute the tests, verify if all works, and then have me to review the final result. That's what I want from the tooling to do.
Very, very nice. Is there something else in the AI space you would like to highlight?
There are a lot of teeny improvements here and there for all the functionality, and it's a lot. We will have a separate blog post on that in the description below. You're gonna see the link, and please read that. It's an interesting update.
Thank you very much. Now on to non-AI stuff. Let's focus a bit more on the core IntelliJ features that we have to offer. First off, we would like to talk a bit about the support we give for people who like to live on the cutting edge, essentially, which brings us to the topic of Java 25. Mari, could you tell us what's happening with Java 25?
So Java 25 will be released in September. And it will show a bunch of improvements and new features. We can look at the list of features here. There will be improvements in performance and performance monitoring or observability, but also some language features like flexible constructor bodies, also known as statements before super. So you can actually put statements before calling super, and in 25.2 you will no longer get a warning that super should be the first statement in your constructor, which is hard to demo, the lack of something. So I'm telling you, you will observe this in your new version. I'm excited about structured concurrency, which will be in preview, but you can use that as well. Unfortunately, the release of Java is just in between our releases, but you will be able to use Java 25 with 2025.2, and there will also be some additional support for Java 25 features closer to the release of Java 25 itself. But let's take a look at some of the stuff that we do already have.
And maybe just to highlight, I mean, we try to support every Java language release essentially months already before it will have been released. It has been the case for years. We will continue doing so, so you can happily live at the edge if you wanted to.
Yes, cutting edge, not bleeding edge, let's hope. And so you can already try Java 25 from inside IntelliJ IDEA. In fact, you can download Java 25 also, or any JDK version, but now also early access versions from inside IntelliJ IDEA. Let me show you. I've already downloaded Java 25, but if you want to download a JDK, you can open the project structure and select Download JDK. We can select a version, so here we can select 25, and that will give us early access versions for 25 and a warning to not use that for production. So we have several versions that we can use for Java 25. So also GraalVM. Hi to our friends at GraalVM. The official Oracle version. And if you want to play around with, this might be bleeding edge, if you want to play with Loom, you can do so as well. So I've already downloaded that, but if you want to try Java 25 early access, you can download it from inside IntelliJ IDEA, or you can use tools like SDKman if you like. I use both actually. I use SDKman as well. I also use SDKman to download Maven that we will talk about later.
But still, it's pretty cool that you can do all of this from inside IntelliJ IDEA, which I think few of our users actually know about.
Yep.
So, I mean, feel free to handle all of your JDKs just from that dialog window, essentially.
Yes. So with that said, let's look at a brief demo. So we can now create compact source files. So let's go with a classic hello world. We've probably all written some hello world code at some point, right?
It feels like this feature is specifically for writing.
It's made for us.
Tailored.
For developer advocate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So also we no longer have to use system out println. We can use the new convenience method of println. So we'll print hello Java 25 complete statement and import. So we can import the IO println, but if we don't want to, we can also type io.println. And then if we optimize our imports, we don't specifically need that import. So this is actually the quickest new hello world way to write it. So we can run that. And it should run and print hello to Java 25. So IntelliJ IDEA is already ready to use Java 25. Oh, by the way, so we have the compact source file, but if you prefer to create a regular class, you can convert it, and obviously also vice versa. So if you start with a compact class file and you want to convert it into a regular class,
it's like starting with a regular hello world and then turning it into a professional hello world.
Right.
Either way, so whatever you prefer, you can go both ways. We have the quick fixes for that. Import declarations. My teammate Mala wrote this code. She unfortunately couldn't be here. She also writes excellent blog posts on all of the new Java features. So if you want to know more about module import declarations, flexible constructor bodies, we'll put the links in the show notes.
All on the IntelliJ IDEA blog, but we'll put the links down below, yeah?
Yes, thanks. So we can now do import module Java base, which will import a bunch of stuff that you might need in a fairly basic application.
This is my favorite feature of all the new stuff that comes to Java.
For people seeing it for the first time, what's the difference to wildcard imports here?
So this can actually, with a module, you can export from different packages. So the wildcard you can use for different classes from the same package, and here you can actually export from different packages. So we see here some stuff that you might want in a fairly basic program like Java Lang, Java Math, NEO, lots of different stuff. So you can see what this imports. So obviously here we have all of these individual imports, and we might no longer want them once we import the module. We can remove all of the imports we no longer need using optimize imports. So that removes 14 imports because Mana wrote this code perfectly for this demo. But if we prefer, we can replace them with a single class import again, much like with the star imports that you mentioned earlier. So that's actually the same inspection, but you can now use that with module declarations. Say that 10 times fast.
Say that 10 times fast. It's going to be a challenge.
So obviously there will be more Java 25 support closer to the actual release date. So watch for the next minor release, which will include some more stuff. And I'm sure Mala will once again write excellent blog posts explaining all of that.
Right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Which means we're going to continue with the cutting edge support, and more specifically in this case, it's going to be, we're going to talk about virtual threads. And I've been at the Spring I/O keynote a couple months back, and Jürgen Höller from Spring Framework Now recommends, people who use Spring Boot, hey, now why don't you enable virtual threads by default for your applications? And so virtual threads are something which are going to be more and more prominent in the near future. But there might be issues when you debug applications with virtual threads, which make heavy use of these threads. And Marit, again, is going to tell us a bit more about what these issues could be and how you could alleviate the pain of debugging them.
Yes. So Java or virtual threads were introduced in Java 21, but as you so for those of you who are not up to speed with like very quick TLDR, what are virtual threads? So you will have OS threads depending on the number of cores that you have in your machine. I have 10, this will be relevant later. And we have platform threads that wrap those OS threads. So the number of platform threads that you can have is again limited to the number of cores on your machine. You can have many more virtual threads that can then go off and do a bunch of work, but those virtual threads will need to be mounted on platform threads to actually do the work, but can then be unmounted when they are waiting for the result of blocking code, for example. But in Java 21, there is the limitation, which I've highlighted on my screen, is that when it executes code inside a synchronized block, it cannot be unmounted. And that is the core of the example that we will talk about. And this has been fixed in Java 24. So if you are in a company where you stick to LTS versions and you're going from Java 21 to Java 25, you will get this improvement automatically. And we will look at an example because our friends at Netflix wrote this excellent blog post detailing their real-world problem with synchronized blocks and virtual threads called Dude, Where's My Lock? They did a really great write-up of that, and I highly recommend reading that. We will put the link again in the show notes. But they also wrote a really great reproducer of what happened. And we can use that to go through, to actually observe in the IDE with some new improvements in the debugger to see how virtual threads actually work. So I will go to the virtual threads demo with, again, much thanks to Netflix for writing this excellent example. So first I will...
And don't be scared, we're going to walk you through this.
We're going to walk you through the code,
step
yes.
by step.
Let me first make sure that if I run it, that I'm running it with Java 21. No, so if it... Yes, so currently I'm running it with Java 21. And we see that the workers start and they're waiting for the lock and nothing much happens. And then if we wait 10 seconds as specified here, then we see that the runnables do not finish. So let's figure out why that is actually going on. So in this code, let me close everything else. We have a re-entrant lock with a fairness policy. That means that it's first in, first out. So the threads, in order that they are created, will try to acquire the lock and release it again. We will take the locks, or rather at that point we have only a main thread which will take the lock, as I'll show you later. There is a runnable that will try to wait for the lock, take the lock and release it again. We create one thread that will be unpinned and that will try to take the lock. We create several threads that will get pinned for the available processors. Remember, I have 10 cores, so there will be 10 times 2, 20 virtual threads will be created that will also try to take the lock. And then let's run that through the debugger and see what happens.
And that was a nice refresher of CS basics in a What's New stream.
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks. I learned something as well. So let's see here. We are running the code and we hit the first where the main thread will take the lock. So currently, because we are at the start of this line, no one has acquired the lock just yet. So if we step over this, we see that the lock is taken by the main thread because that's the only thread that we have at this point. We see that also here. We can add to watches, so we can specifically watch what's going on with the lock on the side. So we see that the main thread has acquired the lock. And then if we run it again, we go to the unlock and we see that we have created the one unpinned thread that I mentioned and all of the pinned threads that we mentioned. And there should be 20. Like I said, the number of cores times 2, and there are 20, or rather, because it's 0-based, 0 to 19. And the main thread still has the lock. And now if we step over the unlock line here, then the main thread releases the lock. So currently no one owns the lock, but none of the other threads are actually taking the lock. And we can, if we click this correctly, get a thread dump.
Yes, thread dump, the favorite function of every developer, getting a thread dump and analyzing the thread dump afterwards.
Fun times. Yeah. So what is new in 25.2 is that we can now see that the fork join pool workers are carrying a virtual thread. Before, if in the previous version, it would say waiting, I think. So we can see that they are carrying virtual threads, but we can also see that 10 of the pinning threads are waiting, because they are currently mounted on those platform threads, but not able to acquire the lock. Because the unpinned thread, which was the first one that we created, and because we have the fairness policy, which says the first in, first out, the unpinned thread should be acquiring the lock, but it can't because there are 10 threads pinned on the platform threads and they're not being released. So they're currently like waiting for each other. And we can now see that in the debugger.
And we couldn't see it before.
And we couldn't see that before, so that's helpful. And we also have 10 other threads that are virtual threads that are runnable but don't have a platform thread to run on, because we had 20 virtual threads and only 10 platform threads for them to run on. So yeah, we can now see that in the debugger, which can be very helpful. So as mentioned, this problem of synchronized code being pinned is solved in Java 24. So if we run the same code with, let's say, Java 24 instead of Java 21, then we should see that it actually works and all of the virtual threads will take the lock and release the lock. And there we go. So, you know, even without using any specific language features, it's worthwhile upgrading at least your JDK, because you get, well, lovely functionality such as this, as well as performance improvements, etc.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Then let's continue a bit with other, let's say, code quality features. We're going to be talking a bit about JSpecify, and I'm going to lead into it with our most beloved exception that we get in the Java world, which is probably the null pointer exception.
Yes, yes, I love it when I get
Don't
those.
you love null pointer exceptions?
The best one.
Yeah, the best ones.
That's a developer's achievement. Always, it's a developer's achievement if you see an MB.
Right, yes.
Anything can, it's Java, anything can be null at any time.
Yep.
Super fun.
And then there's a couple of, ways people try to solve null pointer exceptions. We at JetBrains, we try to solve them with Kotlin. And then I was surprised that 20 years ago, almost in 2006, there was JSR 305 created, which gave you nice annotations, nullable, non-null, which then in turn should give you warnings or error messages if someone was unexpectedly null. And to cut a very long story short, in these 20 years, there were political problems, legal problems, implementation problems, specification problems. And for whatever reason, JSR 305 never really fully made it, so to say. And that's why 5 years ago, another bunch of people got together, another bunch of companies got together from Google, JetBrains, Spring Team, Meta, and thought, let's create a new specification, one to rule them all once and for all.
XKCD vibes.
Yes. Once and for all. And that is JSpecify, again with a set of annotations, nullable, non-null, so that your project will move a step closer to be null safe. Why might that be important for you? Because the Spring team at the moment, they're heavily JSpecifying the entire Spring framework and the entire Spring ecosystem in the future, by the way. And I'm just going to quickly show you what issues, or actually what benefits you might run into in the near future. Just very briefly, because we also, as IntelliJ IDEA, we support JSpecify. You're in a project where you say user repository get users and you run the code. And then, oh no, we got a null pointer exception. We cannot invoke the list iterator because users, the user variable, is null. Why is that? Because someone put in into the getUsers method, they said if true, then return null, which is a bit sad, really. Now, in the JSpecify world, what I would do is I would annotate it with @nullable, right? And then in my IDE, I would immediately get a warning highlighted saying that, hey, by the way, the users variable is the dereference might produce a null pointer exception. At this point, the way we implemented JSpecify, you just get a warning. You could, in theory, still go ahead, compile your code, push it onto production, and then wait for your next coworker to run into this exception and have to fix it. But if you want, for example...
It's a certain way of job security, I guess.
It is a certain way of job security, yes. Then there are other implementations of JSpecify, and a very popular one is Uber's nullaway. And you could hook Uber's nullaway into the build process, right? Or anywhere you actually compile your code. And I'm just going to briefly change a bit of configuration here on this very sticky MacBook. Like so, reload my Maven configuration. And then what you'll see is when I try to refresh my Maven configuration and rebuild the project, I should get a compile error, right? And I do actually get a compile error right here because I annotated the getUsers method as nullable, right? And now I would have to figure out the ugliest way of, for example, surrounding it with an if it doesn't equal to null, and then the code finally compiles. Now, that is JSpecify. Why this will be interesting to you is because, as I said before, when I look at the Spring example, Spring is, they already, with Spring 7, they put the entire Spring core framework onto JSpecify. And if then you have a nice colleague at your workplace who puts in that, compile time configuration, your code will actually break. When you see stuff like this, where I have a REST client, for example, I try to fetch a random URL. And what I always do, I never put in a null check here. I just want to get the response body as a string. And that would then actually break, because if I put .length on a response body, and it would need to wrap it with an if doesn't equal to zero to null, otherwise my code won't compile anymore. So stay tuned how that will go for you, but just so you're aware that the ecosystem is moving towards JSpecify and hopefully once and for all settling the nullability issues in the Java universe.
So hopefully we'll end up with just one standard instead of one more standard on top of the one
that
standard
is,
we had.
yes, fingers crossed again. Yeah.
How do you feel about forbidding the whole nullability story, like for all your projects? Like add one annotation and then you cannot use null at all.
I think people will do it. I don't want to give hard recommendations here, but let us know, by the way, once that happens, if you set up your project like this, let us know what your experiences are with that, yeah? Let's keep it at that.
Right.
All right. We're going to stay in the Spring universe real quick. We're going to talk a bit about Spring Debugger. Spring Debugger is not fully tied to this release. We released it as a plugin, but at the end of the day, I think it's one of the, I find, hottest feature releases if you work with Spring Boot on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
Very useful.
Yes. And
if you've ever been confused with what is the current bean that is loaded, what is the current property, where did it even come from?
Yes, and I feel Marit and Anton have been listening to my talk I gave about Spring Debugger quite a lot, so they could also give you this talk now, or show you show you what the features are all about. At the end of the day, because the talk I'm giving about this is 45 minutes, I'm going to try to squeeze it into 3 minutes.
But we're going to link to the full version in the comments,
right?
We're
going to link to the full version in the comments down below, right? At the end of the day, what you need to do, what I want to hammer home to you, you don't need to do anything really. You need to install the plugin once, and then it will get updated. And then you just click the debug button in your IDE and start debugging your application. That's all you need to do. Because effectively what we want to do is we want to keep you inside IntelliJ IDEA. We never want you to leave the debug panel or the editor window. So you should get all the information you ever wanted just by never leaving the screen again. We're just trying to keep you hostages, essentially.
Keep you from being distracted by the wider internet, because that's what happens if I have to go find stuff on the internet. Then I get distracted by other stuff also on the internet. So, you know, keep you on task.
Exactly, keep you on task. That's what we're trying to do. Exactly. Now, just to briefly show you what's happening, I already booted up a random Spring Boot application in debug mode, and there are 3 or 4 key things. First off, visualizations. We show you here in the project pane window, for example, which properties files have been loaded or haven't been loaded. The same is the same for beans, for example. You can see we've got 20 different beans here, but some of them haven't been loaded because of the profile didn't match, for example, and you just see the ones which are really part of your current application context. When I jump back to the properties file, I don't just get visualization see in the project view. I also see in the properties file, hey, I have a property defined, which is set to dev, and I boot it up on my application in the dev profile. But the real value, because Spring Boot has 15 different places where it fetches properties from, is actually...
And a certain order of precedence that you have to know.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
So the convention over configuration is very nice if you know all of the conventions. But since nothing is written down and you can't find it in the code anymore, if you don't know the conventions, the Spring Debugger can be super useful.
Very well said, because we don't show you, not only show you the actual value, but we also give you a link to where the value came from. And in this case, I created a prank bean, which, you know, overrides essentially, which has the highest priority when you boot up your application. Sets
I love pranks.
Yeah, yeah, just like a null pointer exception on a Friday night on production.
Yes.
Right, and that sort of stuff. So again, visualization and navigation. And the same, by the way, is true when I open up the debug window. To real quick, we're inside a bean, and it doesn't matter which bean you're inside. We're trying to give you 2 things. We're trying to give you access to any property that your application consists of. So you can choose to switch it down here to Spring Properties. Type, you get auto-completion, and you can read-only access any property you like that is defined as part of your application context. So my own properties, default properties, some sort of Kafka properties, anything you like. The same is true for beans. They don't have to be injected in your current class where you're currently breaking, but I can get an entity manager anywhere I like. I can start writing queries, for example, saying, hey, I want to, you know, query all the customers and put them into a list right here. Access to any bean in the application context from the debugger panel window. Are you excited about these 2 changes?
Amazing.
This is really nice. I can anywhere in the application to call some service method without having to go through authentication layers.
Yes,
for instance.
That is exactly it. And
speaking of not always knowing the conventions, Spring Security, which also keeps changing per version.
Spring Security is a different topic, yeah. Let us know if you fully grok Spring Security, because that needs a PhD to fully sort out. Anyway, I feel like a salesman because I'm about to say, wait, there's more. There is more. And just to finish off, kind of, we're putting all, you know, meta bean information right again in the evaluation panel, that you can see, hey, this is a Spring bean, it's of scope singleton, it's defined for a specific context, for a specific profile, it's injected into a specific place, you can actually navigate to where it was defined, all these sorts of things. You might have also noticed we detected automatically you broke in a method which has a transaction. So that's why we also display you the current transaction. We tell you the metadata about the transaction, propagation required in this case. We show you where the transaction started from, and you can navigate to that place. We even show you parallel transactions running. So transaction tracing is essentially an issue we're trying to solve. Again, you don't have to do anything, just debug and navigate through the debug panel. And then I want to finish off with what gives usually the biggest woohoos. in sessions when I'm showing them. I'm using a Docker Compose file for this project, which boots up a MySQL database on a random port whenever I start up the application. It doesn't matter if I start up my application normally, or if I do it for tests with, let's say, test containers library on different ports. At the end of the day, I don't know what the port to my database is. And I would like to have access to my database here in the database tool window. What do I do now? By the way, what do you do in these cases? I mean,
because I had to do it so many times, I just recall, okay, there was this port I needed to map.
Right.
And go to this compose file, add the port.
Yeah, add a static port essentially.
Yeah.
And if you have 20 microservices and it's 10 different ports and nice sequence, whatever. Again, now what you need to do is you need to hit the debug button, and then you'll see magic happening, because at the end of the day, when you boot up your application, what you'll see that we automatically import all the data sources your Spring Boot project has. In this case, it's just one database. It could be 10 or 20 databases. Let us know, by the way, if you have like 20 databases configured in your Spring Boot project. Would be amazing to see.
Yes, about what that project would look like.
Yes. But it doesn't matter if it's a random port, what username, password, we're just trying to figure it out. And you will immediately be able to issue queries to any relational database, to MongoDB databases. And you didn't, again, have to do anything. Just press the debug button and it all works out of the box.
Nice. That is very nice.
That is very nice indeed. While we're on this Spring topic, let's finish off Spring Debugger and let's move to Spring Modulith. Because what we're trying to do also with IntelliJ IDEA, no matter what type of architecture you're using. Quick question, microservices, monoliths, in which camp do you fall?
Modulith?
Modular
monolith?
That was a great answer.
Did you rehearse this or?
No.
Yeah, I'm team microservices, sorry.
You're team microservices? How dare you?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what type of architecture you're trying to follow, from microservices to spaghetti architecture to whatever you like. Lasagna.
Layered.
We're trying to support you. And that support for Spring Modulith is something we came up with because the Spring team, they have Ollie from Spring created Modulith. They're trying to recommend it if you're building a bigger application. And if you want to make sure, even if it's kind of a monolithic application, that you build it and have nicely split modules so that it doesn't turn into spaghetti at the end of the day.
Yes.
But to be honest, most projects sooner or later, especially if they're long-lived, turn into some kind of partial spaghetti. But that is, right. In any case, I have a Modulith project open here, and just so you are aware of how this is supposed to be done, if you're using Modulith, you create a normal Spring Boot application, you add a couple of dependencies to it, and then you essentially already have Modulith support. The way you would structure a bookstore, like an e-commerce bookstore in this example, is you would have packages not by layers or by technical layers. So for example, repository services, entities, whatever. You would split them by, let's say, domain units. So for example, you would have orders here, you would have notifications here, you would have a catalog here, an inventory here, whatever you like. Once you add Modulith, then what we now support is that we immediately highlight, hey, we have a parent package where all of your modules live in. Siva Labs Bookstore, because my colleague Siva created the example. Thank you, Siva. We have these modules that come essentially packages which live directly under the parent module. You can see they're green because they're open, so to say, which means I can access product API classes, product DTO classes from any other module in here. But sub-packages, by default, coming below your top module, they are private. That's why you see the red icon here highlighted, and you cannot actually access these classes. Let me show you what that means. When I'm going into product DTO, for example, a nonsensical example, but still, it will show off pretty nicely what's going to happen. And I want to access from the orders module, the order entity. Then I could say, I could write order entity, right, and extract it into a variable. But now I will get error highlighting here saying, hey, I'm trying to access a class from a different module, which is closed, and you're not supposed to access that. If you didn't have that IDE support, then you wouldn't see these errors, you wouldn't see the visualizations, and then we have auto-completion for the configuration files and all of that. Instead, you would have to rely on something which is a test. I think that is the default recommendation, that you have one test class, which is called modularity test or whatever you like really, and which verifies all these module boundaries, and then you have a failing test if someone breaks these module boundaries.
But then you wouldn't find out that you're breaking the boundaries until you run the test.
Exactly.
And with the IDE support, you can see it as you're writing the code, so you get immediate feedback.
Exactly.
Which is always better.
Which is always much better. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whatever you, again, which architecture you're trying to follow. Try out Spring Modulith. You'll get the support essentially baked in with 2025.2. And then, as always, let us know what you think. Now, so this doesn't turn into the Marco show, I will finally Marco codes. And by the way, this might be a perfect plug for a podcast which we're launching, which is called the Marco Show, where I'm talking to interesting guests from the IT sphere. And I had a session with Gavin King, creator of Hibernate, by the way, a couple of weeks back, on architecture, while we're at the topic. It's going to air in a couple of weeks on this channel here. You might be interested in it. But now, finally, let's continue with the What's New stream. Speaking of Spring, we're still in the Spring universe. I think there's new stuff happening when it comes to Spring and Kotlin. Anton, what's going on?
Right. I'm going to ask you a question. When do you think Kotlin support came to Spring?
When do I think Kotlin support came to Spring?
Kotlin in Spring since 2018, I think.
I don't know.
Which version of Spring Framework was it?
Oh, which version of Spring Framework? So we're currently on 6. I'm going to say, I don't know, I would say 4. Can I say 4?
Well, you can use Kotlin with any Spring version, technically. But the official support, when not us, when the Spring team announced that Kotlin is the first level language in Spring Framework, was Spring Framework 5.
Oh,
That was reasonably long time ago, like I would say several years already, right? And now we were collaborating with Spring folks on different matters, improving Kotlin support. We contributed a few things to the documentation. Code samples in Spring Boot documentation are now in both Kotlin and Java. But we are now collaborating on more areas for Kotlin and Spring. And we have a blog post about that as well. We're going to link that into the description, of course. And there are 4 areas. Null safety, we mentioned that just recently about JSpecify, so it actually fits the whole collaboration story with null safety as well. Official learning materials, so far there weren't so many samples and tutorials in Kotlin and Java, and now currently they are mostly in Java, and we are adding the analogs or translations into Kotlin. The most important bit there is faster reflection library in Kotlin. Why is it important? Because there is a component scan phase. The framework starts, it scans for the components, and it's done through the reflection. So reflection in Kotlin is slightly slower than the one in Java. I don't know the numbers, but we are making it faster so that you get on par capabilities with Java in Kotlin for Spring. And the last topic is the extensions, the DSLs. Kotlin is very rich on the syntax level that provides the DSL capabilities, and Kotlin developers using Spring Framework can take advantage of that if we improve the DSLs that already exist there, but it's going to be more. So this is the interesting bit.
Let us know, by the way, if you're using Spring and Kotlin together. We're always interested to talk with you folks in the comments down below. While we're on the topic of Kotlin, I think also things happened in the Kotlin Notebook world, which I had seen once described as the ultimate REPL, or the REPL done right. I don't know yet. We'll see what Anton is going to tell us about them.
Oh yeah, REPL. Have you used REPLs in your life? Is there a place for REPLs in your life?
Barely.
Yeah, I used to use one very ancient REPL like 20 years ago, Bean Shell. I don't know if it exists, but it was nice. And the most recent one is probably JShell.
Right, JShell, yeah.
The younger kids know about. Have you used that?
Only for demos, I have to admit.
Yeah.
Same, like barely.
Not very practical, in my opinion. And I think Kotlin notebooks are more convenient for this kind of ad hoc development tasks and exploration, prototyping, and so on. So what I want to show here is I have a project with a Spring Boot, basically a CRUD application. It has a nice screen with the lists and.
Does it have to be a Kotlin project if I want to make use of Kotlin notebooks, by the way?
No. By the way, you don't even need a project to create a notebook. You can, on the welcome screen, we have a button, create a notebook next to the project. Right. So they will be created in the scratches, where all the scratch files are located. So somewhere inside the settings repository, the directory for IntelliJ. But let me first explain how it all works. I have a notebook, and in the simplest example, you can just write some code and execute it, right? So the difference with the REPLs is that you usually use them in a terminal. You type in the code line by line, and then if you need to modify it, it's inconvenient. And here I could, for instance, let me type in some code. Actually. Hello. So the full example is there, and I can just execute it, right? And if I don't like how it behaves, I can change it. So it's a quick execution of small snippets of code. Not too impressive, but at least we can experiment. But the most common way to use notebooks, usually is with Jupyter notebooks, is to analyze some data.
Right.
And here we can just take the file, drop it in. Some code will be generated. And we can browse the data. It's interactive. Ooh, cool.
Nice.
Sort stuff. And obviously there's APIs for analyzing the data, crunching it, making graphs, plotting some interesting visuals as well.
Yeah, lots of ways to visualize the data as well.
Exactly. Yeah. But then there are some other scenarios where it could be useful. For instance, exploring some libraries. We can import, for instance, some interesting library using the use directive. And there is a predefined definition of Spring AI, for instance. And I can just explore the API. It requires a key. I have it pre-configured in the environment so that I don't
leak your key
leak my key right now into the public. So there is an API key. And then usually if you're experimenting with Spring AI, most likely you will have to create a full project to get this precious instance of the chat client to start communicating with the LLM. In fact, there is a low-level API that allows you to create this chat instance without creating the whole context of the Spring framework. It's hidden in the documentation somewhere deep, not in the getting started, so you have to find that. But we can generate this. I have live templates for myself pre-configured in my IDE. So we create an OpenAI configuration, basically, and then OpenAI specific chat instance. And then out of that, we can create a chat client to actually talk to the LLM. What can we ask from the LLM just to see if it works? Suggest tabs for the bass line to play along the song. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song, let me think about it.
Only one?
Pink Panther?
Let's say Pink Panther, yeah.
Sure, let's go with that.
That's a good one.
Pink Panther, that's great. So execute that. And let's see. Will I get the
You are a bass
tabs?
player, right?
I do play bass on my free time.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could play in a band, but I'm not that good. Yes, I have the tabs. And actually, well, I know that it's enough to play bass.
Okay.
Right?
Cool stuff. So we can explore the APIs by some library, the framework, and so on. Experiment with that. The other more practical use case could be is when, let me execute the application that I have here, and I will show you the real use case. For instance, you are developing the application, you are testing it, you are filling in some test data into the database, and damn, it's so you are doing some manipulations with your application. Let me show you that application as well. So here it is. We have some songs, right? I have created this application. I can load in some data as well from the CSV files I have extracted from the public data sources. For instance, I click the button and it loads the data into my database for my application, and suddenly I have duplicated data. So I'm like, okay, I probably need to clean it up, but I don't know what exactly to delete.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the situation. For instance, whatever was added into the database was also logged into a log file.
Right.
So I have it in the log file. And I have the specific log statements here that we loaded a track with the ID number, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now if I want to clean it up, I need to parse the log, extract the IDs, and exactly write the code that will exactly delete this entry from the database. And for that, I'm free to use anything. Right? What is your favorite library for using for working with databases?
Can I say Hibernate?
I think you already said Hibernate just a little bit earlier, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, my favorite is actually Spring JDBC template.
Okay.
So, and we don't have the predefined descriptor for that, but I can use a special syntax, which is Gradle-like, to add the Maven coordinates of any library I want, pull it into the notebook, and start using it.
That's pretty cool.
So, for instance, what was it? JDBC templates. JDBC templates, the all good way. Create the instance of driver manager data source, create the instance of the JDBC template. Then I could actually parse the log. So I can use any APIs, just script it, parse out with a regular expression, no tests needed.
You know what the plural is of regex, right?
No.
Regrets. Just saying.
Yeah, so there's some number of the records in the log file that I haven't discovered. And then I can, for instance, delete some data by using those IDs, by using the JDBC template, clean it up, go back to my precious application and refresh, and there's data.
Nice.
Yes.
It's interesting because for these use cases, I would have basically created some throwaway classes and forgotten to clean them up again, and then I don't know.
Or write some shell script. And here you can have the recipes alongside your project. By the way, you can use the same classes and the same APIs that you have in the project as well, because the class path is visible in the notebook, and it's just very convenient and very productive.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Very, very nice. Thank you. Give Kotlin Notebooks a try right now.
No, right now finish watching the rest of this stream.
That's
and then after...
Then afterwards, you're allowed to. We're going to continue with, and I have to almost chuckle a bit, with, let's call it cutting edge support of cutting edge libraries. You might not necessarily associate the next library, which I'm about to mention, with cutting edge, but the support is cutting edge.
Yes.
And the library is Maven 4. Marit, what took them so long to release Maven 4?
Okay, first of all, I don't work on the Maven team, but so what took them so long? We should know that Maven is basically the center of the Java ecosystem. So they've been working on Maven 4 for several years, but they are also working very hard to not break anything, which is very, very important, because if they break Maven, then a lot of the ecosystem will also work. Anton just mentioned Maven coordinates. Even if you're not using Maven as a build tool, you're getting your dependencies from Maven Central. And they need to make sure that nothing breaks, which you know,
is a very valid reason.
Which, you know, is not...
Needs to be stable. I have enough other problems in my life.
So, you know, it's maybe not very exciting, but personally, I have to say that I am very excited about my software development being as boring and uneventful as possible. So thank an open source maintainer today, thanks to the people working on Maven.
And by the way, maybe we should even mention it has not been released yet.
It has not been released yet, but it might be released this year. So we are making sure that you can use Maven 4 with IntelliJ IDEA 2025.2. So also if you already want to try out Maven, currently they're on release candidate 4. So if you want to try out Maven 4 and see that your project still built with Maven 4, you can do so. Let's see how it works. So first off, to show you that you can still run very old projects, I took an old Java 8 project from my GitHub graveyard of projects. This is my favorite project to demo outdated dependencies and outdated everything. Don't worry, it's not running in production. No production environment was harmed in the creating of this demo. Currently, if you're using...
By the way, I have to mention, it's a fitness tracker. I love it.
Yes.
So you took the time to build a fitness tracker, but it's not running in production.
Oh yeah, this is funny. Thank you.
Forget the fitness. Okay.
The fitness is not running.
Right.
I am, but the fitness tracker is not. Anyway, so in IntelliJ IDEA, you have two ways of running Maven. You can use the bundled version, which is still currently Maven 3 and will continue to be so for a while. Obviously, we will swap that out for Maven 4 sometime in the future, depending on the rate of adoption. Or if your project has a wrapper, you can use the Maven wrapper. This project does not for demo reasons. I have installed the Maven 4 release candidate using SDKman. Thanks, Andres Almirai, for making that available. So I can point to that version to run this project with Maven 4. And then if I click Maven Verify, not to anger Andres and use Maven clean install, then we can see that this Java 8 project still builds with Maven 4. So alternatively, if we have a project that does use a wrapper, we can update the wrapper. I should have that here. So we can use a command to update the wrapper unless you know specifically exactly what to change in the properties file. But I'd recommend just running that command, so that will update the properties file for you. So now it's using Maven 4. And let's see if this project now builds with Maven 4. I'm expecting it to fail actually for reasons. So as mentioned, Apache Maven 4 requires Java 17 or newer to run. And you might have some old Maven configuration in your project where you might have set Maven to run with an older JDK version. If so, IntelliJ will detect that and give you the option or quick fix to update that. And we can say, let's go with a newer version. So we can go with 24, or we can also go with 17. It says 17 and higher. Which one should we do? 17?
A stable one.
a stable one.
I like to live on the unstable edge, but
Well,
I
okay,
mean,
well,
up to you.
let's use Graal. Hi, friends at Graal VM. So let's use that and click verify, and now hopefully it will build. So now we see that we can use the Maven wrapper as well to build our project with Maven 4. There is documentation in the Maven documentation, A, on what's new in Maven, and B, how to migrate. They recommend going first to the latest version of Maven 3, which is currently 3.9.11, if I'm not mistaken. So try that first. Make sure to fix any warnings that you might get in your build first before then going to Maven 4. See that you can run your project with Maven 4, and once you have done that, then we can look into some new Maven, using some new Maven syntax. So one of the things that they are changing is probably, because it might still change, it's a release candidate, probably change is the naming of modules, because, you know, there are two hard problems in computer science: naming things, cache invalidation, and off-by-one errors. So not to confuse Maven modules with Java modules, they suggested to replace that with sub-projects. We have some quick fixes and suggestions in the POM already, mostly to help you run with Maven 4. In future releases, once Maven 4 is out, we will add some suggestions also to help you migrate from Maven 3 to Maven 4. But for now, if you want to use the new model version, if you just change model version to 4.1.0, by the way, this can be confusing. Maven 4 uses the model 4.0.0 and Maven 3, sorry. This can be confusing. Maven 3 uses the model version 4.0.0 and Maven 4 uses the model version 4.1.0.
Not confusing at all.
Not at all confusing. Like we mentioned, naming things is hard.
Yep, very logical.
Yes. Anyway, so now we see that if we put model version 4.1.0, IntelliJ warns us that this doesn't work because we still have 4.0.0 here. So we have a quick fix to update that to this version. And then, sorry, we can see that one of the POMs has been updated. Specifically, this POM has been updated. So that's one way to do it. Another way is if you use new syntax like the sub-projects. Currently, it doesn't recognize this syntax because we're using model 4.0.0.
Maven 3.
Maven 3 model 4.0, thanks. So obviously, if we have sub-projects, then we need everything in there also to be called sub, not a capital, sub-project. And again, IntelliJ highlights that this is the wrong model version. It should be 4.0.1. And again, we can use this quick fix to then update the model version at the top, which again only updates this POM. If you want to, because this is a multi-module project, or rather now a multi-sub-project project, because naming things is hard. If we want to update all the POMs, we can do that too, because if we try to run this now with the syntax for Maven 4, we should get the suggestion to update the model to 4.1.0. And if we click that, then all of the POMs are updated.
Nice.
So you can update all the POMs to model 4.1.0 to use Maven 4. And now we should be able to, again, build this project. So, you know, give it a try, see whether your projects are running with Maven 4. If you find any bugs in Maven, let them know. If you find any bugs in IntelliJ IDEA or are having any trouble, let us know. And yeah, let us know in the comments below how you're finding the support. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you, Marit.
Thank you.
Which brings us to almost the end. We're going to tease you a tiny bit because our goal is to make your life as a developer as comfortable as possible. And one of those comforts could be that we don't necessarily want you to have to learn a dozen of keyboard shortcuts again, or having to relearn them and forget them, or the other way around rather. And we're working on something which is called Universal Entry Point. And I think Marit is going to talk to us about a bit about what that essentially is going to be.
Yeah, so you might be familiar with code completion. If you're writing code and you have, for example, an object and you put dot, then you get completion for the API for that type of, for whatever type that object is. Or it also includes a list of postfix completion templates. And we are now adding something new, which is called command completion, to give you commands that you can run essentially within the context of where you are. And I want to show you a quick demo. The code is fairly trivial. That's not the point. I want to show you just some of the things that you can do with this command completion and how it works. I have a line of code which already has some problems. Normally we might go here and use Alt-Enter to find the quick fixes. But now with command completion, we can type 2 dots to filter all of the actions that we might want to apply here, including the quick fix. And you can see that as I'm moving, it will highlight exactly on my screen the code changes and what will be changed. So in this case, I want to add this exception. I see some unused code here. I want to remove that as well. And we can do that by replacing it with the file name. So I can see again here what's being changed in the code. So we can do that. And now I see that I have some unused imports. I sometimes forget the shortcut for unused imports, I have to admit. And now I no longer have to remember, because I can type ... and use optimize imports and see that the unused imports are removed. So we're reading some lines from a file and we want to store them in a collection, for example, an array list of strings. Now you used the postfix completion .var earlier in the stream. There's at least one other way that we can extract this variable, Anton.
Using the shortcut?
Well, yes, or the refactoring. But you know, if you're not familiar with these and you want to just use introduce local variable, now you don't have to remember any of this functionality or the exact postfix completion or whatever. We can use command completion. This is a beta feature. I'll show you how to turn it on should you want to, but first I want to show you why you want to. And also things might change because it's a beta feature. So let me finish some of this code. So like we mentioned, normally if you have, for example, an object, you can use the dot to get the API completion or the postfix completion. So the postfix templates are here, but now we can see also that we have the command completion in there, and the dot would filter it down to the command completion. In this case, we want to read line from here, make sure that it's not null, and add all of them to our collection. We see again an error, so if we go here, we can fix that and add it to the method signature. We might want to use a stream instead, so also the list is filterable, so we can use this, and we can use this. If we want to iterate over them, we can print them out, but for example, I have a list of names. Maybe I want to create some objects with those. So I could have a user equals new user, sure. What if I want to go to this class? I can do that too. So I can go to declaration. Here we can rename this to, for example, a person.
And I think, I mean, it's just, I think in general, the tendency is just like with maybe with the Spring Debugger, where essentially you have one button, you click it and everything is done automatically for you. I think the tendency is here, or not the intention rather is,
yes,
you don't have to worry about, you know, the context or the keyboard shortcut or a menu item or whatever have you. Just type ...
And it should give you all of the available actions that are relevant in your context. So. Yes. We can use it to generate a bunch of stuff. So for example, let's generate a toString method. We'll use only the name. And then if we go back to our original class, and we will print out the person. And then if we run it, it should print out nicely all of our teammates.
Super nice.
So
when is that going to be available?
So that will be, the beta feature will be available in 2025.2. So you can turn that on, but you have to explicitly check the box to turn that on, which obviously I already have done. So look for command completion. Oh, now it's stuck in key map, which means that it's going to only find stuff in key map. Command completion, so it's under editor, general code completion, and it's called command completion. If you check this box right here, that will turn on the beta feature. And yeah, please let us know how you like it. There will also be a blog post about it. If that's out, we'll link that in the comments below as well. I think that this is super useful, and it will save you lots of time on A, learning shortcuts and learning about features, because they will be more discoverable. And B, I think it will also help you get more out of your IDE, because you might find features you didn't even know existed. I still find features I didn't even know existed.
I think we all do.
Yes.
I think we all do.
Even platform developers discover some features from the source code. So.
Yes. I think we've had this discussion before, that I don't think there's anyone within JetBrains who knows all the features. So, hopefully you'll find this useful. Do let us know in the comments below what you think or what you might be missing, because not all of the actions are currently available. We're working on adding more. And one of the things that we want to add as well is some AI support, so that, for example, if you don't like the name of a method, you can just have the method and type ... and then have your prompt for the AI, rename this method, give this a better name, or things like that. That will take the context of where you are and provide you with better suggestions using AI. So that will be not yet available in 2025.2, but just to give you a glimpse of future plans, how we plan to improve this.
I actually feel bad about it, because I spent so much time learning keyboard shortcuts, and now you're telling me that ... is, I mean...
I know, same, but also I think that it will be very helpful, and I think it still helps to know, where to put the ... because you can put it, so currently you can put it at the end of the line, and it will highlight where in the line you can do different actions. You can apply it on a class or on a variable or on a method name, but you still have to know to do that. And obviously, you might need to, if the list of actions is very long, filter it down what you need, and know which one to click to get.
Well, with all those new developments that are happening, probably there are more interesting things to learn than the shortcuts.
That is
also true. Like the shortcuts should help you, and the functionality should help you write the code, not be a hindrance in remembering the right shortcut to do the thing that I want to do.
All right then, let's move on to essentially the end. Now would be the time to download IntelliJ IDEA 2025.2, but it's also time to tease something which is not yet going to happen for this release, but for next release, but we still wanted to mention it. I think in 2009-ish, we split IntelliJ IDEA into a community edition, open source, and into an ultimate edition. And you might have seen a blog post already on the IntelliJ IDEA blog. Essentially what's going to happen with the next release, so 2025.3, we're going to remove that split, and there will be just one single unified distribution for you to download. So there's not going to be an ultimate version anymore. There's not going to be a community edition anymore. Just one download link, and you can go ahead and download it and live happily ever after. For us, it means we just have to focus on building, one stream, or one edition rather, higher quality at the end of the day. For you, it means less confusion. We're going to move actually a fair amount of features from the Ultimate Edition and make it available into, the new baseline edition, so to say. And then you'll be able to transparently try out, ultimate features, so-called ultimate features as well. And you don't have to worry about your license. We're going to keep the perpetual fallback licenses as we had in the past. Just for you to know that with the next release, there's going to be unified distribution, and we're saying bye-bye to Ultimate and Community, the split. Which brings us now finally to the very, very end.
But I have a question about that. Does it mean that I will not be able to use the version, some features for free? I have to buy the license?
No, you don't have to buy the license. You can just go ahead and you start using your IDE for free. And if there is some premium feature which you would like to tap in, you can try it out in sort of a trial mode and then upgrade. But I mean, it's not like we're taking anything away from or blocking you in any way.
Or vice versa, if you have Ultimate but your license lapses, then you have access still to either the fallback license, if that is applicable, or at least the base version, so that you don't have to switch to a different installation like you do currently between IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate and IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition. So it should make it easier for everyone.
Yeah, for all of us. Very well said. This brings us now finally to the end. Thank you very much, Marit. Thank you, Anton. It was a pleasure going through what's new with you. And I hope we're going to repeat this format very soon again, maybe even in between releases. Stay tuned. As always, let us know what you thought. Leave comments down below. And hopefully see you soon again.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, Marit's favorite action.
And push the bell button.
Click the bell button.
Push the bell buttons. Now we put in all, the social references. Enjoy the release and see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.